Dershowitz is, of course, a retired and eminent law professor at Harvard. He's also the author of the book, The Case Against Impeaching Trump, and he joins us tonight. Professor, thank you very much for coming on. So all of this is kind of coming out as we're reporting it, and it's hard to assess. But I just want to get to the core allegations once again. So you heard Catherine Herridge say repeatedly that the special counsel says that Michael Cohen is in contact with the Russians at various points. How would that be criminal? Under what circumstances would that be criminal, do you think?
Well, it would only be criminal if, for example, this is a hypothetical, the campaign or President Trump or somebody in his behalf offered Putin a penthouse apartment at the top of the tower in exchange for getting a permit to build the tower. That would be arguably criminal under the Federal Corrupt Practices Act.
Right.
Short of that, it's very, very hard to see this. What I think we're seeing is a coming attraction to what the report will be. And I think the report will set out a circumstantial case based on all the lying that's taking place, a circumstantial case for arguably political sins. But I don't see any crimes. Collusion itself is not a crime. Using information given by Russia to WikiLeaks would not be a crime unless the campaign participated with WikiLeaks in the hacking itself, and there's no evidence to support that. So what I'm afraid is going to happen is this special counsel, whose job it is only to find crimes, not sins, only crimes, will blur the line between crimes and sins and write a report designed to put the president in a bad light, but in the end they won't be able to find any specific violations of federal criminal statutes unless they stretch these vague laws like obstruction of justice beyond any recognition.
So is it a prosecutor's job constitutionally to paint a politician or anyone in a, quote, bad light without charging him with relevant crimes? I mean, that's not in his purview,
no,
is it?
it's worse. It's worse than improper. It's unconstitutional. The grand jury has a specific function. It's supposed to only indict or not indict. Indeed, prosecutors generally don't issue reports for that reason because they only hear one side of the case. They don't hear the other side. There's no cross-examination of witnesses. That's why it's regarded as wrong for prosecutors to issue reports. That's what Comey did wrong. He should never have gone beyond saying we're not indicting Hillary Clinton.
Exactly,
in fact, he shouldn't have said it at all. It should have been a Justice Department official. And now I think it's wrong for there to be a public report laying out a political case. Now, at the very least, what has to happen is the new Attorney General has to, if he receives the report, say, I'm not making it public until the other side has had a chance to rebut it and file its own report. Then you get two political reports, one from each side, and the public can judge. But this sounds like a distortion of what prosecutors ought to do. Prosecutors ought to do up and down, indict, not indict.
Exactly.
If you have the evidence of crime, indict. Otherwise, shut up.
So when the special counsel's office releases documents, as they did today, that make cryptic references to meetings with Russia without explaining why this is relevant to the public interest or illegal, does it raise the suspicion that this is a manipulative public relations move rather than a legal one?
Well, it raises the suspicion that the final report will also include allegations of political sin rather than specific crimes. Yeah. And that's just not the proper role of special counsel or any prosecutor. And I hope it doesn't happen. I hope that Mueller, who has a generally good reputation as a prosecutor, will remember that his job essentially was to uncover crimes that occurred before he was appointed. At the moment, most of the crimes he's uncovered occurred after he was appointed. Lying to Congress, lying to prosecutors, and crimes that are unrelated to his mandate. Manafort, financial crimes, Cohen taxi cab crimes. Right. The only crimes he seems to have found relating to Russia are by Russians. And that was not part of his mandate, number one. And number two, nobody's going after these Russians. They're not going to be sent to the United States. They're not coming to Disneyland where they can be arrested. So that's pretty moot.
So very quickly, one final more general question. You've watched our legal system and participated in it for many decades now. Is it common for prosecutors, good people, people of integrity, to become caught up in a kind of vortex of zealotry where they kind of lose sight of the law and become really focused on destroying people?
Well, I think that's the problem with special counsel, because you come in and there's somebody out there or people out there with targets on their back. And in this case, he went after so many people who had close connections to the president in an attempt to get him. You don't have to believe me. Listen to Judge Ellis, who presided over the Manafort case. He was very critical of how the special prosecutor is squeezing people, not only in order to make them sing, but in some cases, people are composing because they think the better the story, the better the deal. It also gives a lesson, an object lesson to criminal defense lawyers. Be careful when you make a deal, because when you make a deal with the prosecutors, they can really come back and hurt you.
Exactly.
Look at what happened to Cohen. He made a deal. The special counsel says he's cooperated, but the U.S. attorney in New York says he still ought to get substantial jail time. That's why in 53 years of practicing law, I have very, very rarely made deals or made pleas with prosecutors because I basically don't trust them. I don't trust the system. The system today is so skewed in favor of prosecutors and against defendants.
We may be losing perspective of this. I just want to remind our viewers on our way out that you are not a figure on the right. You are not a Trump voter. You're merely defending what you think is our tradition of law. And I appreciate that.
And I've been saying the same thing for 55 years. I've been saying the same thing for 55 years. I've expressed the same criticism of prosecutors, whether they go after Democrats or Republicans.
Amen. Alan Dershowitz, thank you very much.